If you ever wanted to get into TFT, now is the perfect time to do that because there's a completely new update out right now with set 14. So there's pretty much no better time to start. What I love most about TFT is that as soon as I log in, my friends list is empty, just like in real life. So we're gonna click the play button, go into a ranked game, click TFT. But my favorite part about TFT is that it is completely free to play. No add-ons, no nothing. You don't have to buy anything. The only thing you could actually buy is like cosmetics, nothing that makes you better, nothing that unlocks more units or anything like that. So we can get right into the game and start playing right away, which is really, really cool because I don't think there are many games out there that do that. So the first thing you want to take note of is when you start the game, there are 8 other players or 7 other players, 8 total players, and you are one of them. You are trying to get first place as much as you can, but that doesn't always happen. You gain rating if you get 4th place or above, and you lose if you go 5th and below. So you want to try to get top 4s. You might hear people say that a lot, or ideally get first place in total. So the game starts, there's like a new feature where at the start of every game, there's like this little portal at the start is what they call it. And you could always check what it is up here. So right now, it's a hack 4th augment. There will be an extra augment round at the end of stage 4. We'll talk more about augments later, but essentially it just keeps the game fresh and makes every game of TFT a little bit different from all the other ones you've played before. So ideally, like the whole point of the game is to build a nice team and beat everyone else. But there are different ways to do that. So obviously there are strategies that revolve around the early game, some that revolve around the late game, some want to stay like evenly powered throughout, but pretty much you want to be buying units and upgrading them. So you see right here, we have this Morgana and we have 2 Morganas in shop. So if we buy another one, nothing happens, we just get 2 Morganas, but when we get the 3rd one, we upgrade the unit and they'll combine once the next round starts. So you'll see that in just a little second. And upgrades are very important when building your team because obviously you want like good characters, but how do we get good characters? Well, you either buy the expensive characters or you get a bunch of upgraded characters. That's going to be the best way to do that. So when that happens, we saw this little upgrade animation go off. She just essentially gets like a lot more stats. So you could compare her to like Nidalee over here. Nidalee has like 650 health and like Morgana has 900, which is obviously a big upgrade, right? So you could play around that unit if you want. Morgana's an ability power unit, so she likes casting a lot, kind of like a typical mage archetype in a bunch of other games. So we could build around that. You know what? Let's just do that this game. Let's build around Morgana, and if we right-click her, we could see that she's a Divinicore Dynamo. But first, let's look at the augments. So every start of stage, or like stage 2-1, 3-2, and 4-2, you get a selection of augments, and essentially they're just ways to power up your team, which is pretty nice. So actually, I'm gonna not do Morgana. I'm gonna take this augment in the middle here, but you could always re-roll if you don't like whatever you see. But I wanna take this one in the middle here because it's a trait augment is what they call it. So it allows you to focus in on one trait, which I think is pretty useful. So we're gonna play around Street Demons. So Street Demons give health, ability power, and attack damage, which is a pretty nice bonus to your team. So what do we want to do when we have freestyling? Essentially, when Street Demons start combat on a non-tagged hex, tag it, and after all hexes are tagged, you gain 25 gold, and you also gain 3 Street Demons. So essentially what that means is that normally you have hexes painted on your board, and they pretty much give the stats, and like Street Demons get double of those stats. But what we want to do in all cases of TFT is we want to build a team with damage dealers and tanks, and kind of use that to build a synergistic team. So you could do that through either traits. Most of them have built-in tanks and damage dealers already. You can manually do it by picking a certain trait and focusing on those and then bringing other people in there. So there are a lot of different ways to kind of do that or achieve that. So I want to paint all the hexes, so I'm going to keep doing freestyling. I'm going to be off the hexes that I painted already, just so I could fill up my board right away as fast as possible. So one easy trick I like to do when playing any comp in TFT is using the team planner. This is really good for beginners. So you could just look for all the Street Demon units. So one of them we have, I think, is like Zyra. So we could hover over Street Demons and we could see like Dr. Mundo's there. Who else? Echo's there, Jinx is there. And slowly just add all of them in. So I'm gonna do that right now. And once you do that, essentially in your shops down below, which is these little 5 cards down here, you'll see all the Street Demon units highlighted. So we have Rengar, and then we have Brand, and Nico, and then lastly we have Samira, which is pretty nice stuff. So once we add all these units in, we'll be able to see all the champions that we need to buy the entire game. And that allows us to focus on everything else, such as the carousel. So on the carousel, we want to focus in on a unit or item that we want. I'm going to go for the Nefari here because she has a sword. I want to build a Spear of Shojin. It's a pretty nice item on brand, which is one of the carries we use later on in the game, as we see over here. So with items, it's another way to make your units more powerful or your team comp more powerful. So we could build them right now. One easy trick to do is you see these items on the left hand side. We could always right click them to see what item combinations we can make. And I know this is intimidating. It's a lot of stuff going on, but essentially once you get used to the game, you'll pretty much memorize all the items anyways, and it's a lot less intimidating than it looks. But right now, all you need to know is that Spear of Shojin is a pretty good item on this team comp, so I'm going to go ahead and build that and then drop it on one of my units back here. Again, I'm going to keep them all on different hexes so that I paint some stuff. And then here, we also want to do another thing called worrying about our economy, because we want to buy units in the shop, which is all fine and dandy, but we also want to keep track of everything else that's going on and also make sure we have enough gold to do everything we want. So I'm going to sell all the non-Street Demon units right now, and I'll buy this one. We put Jinx in our team planner. That's kind of why she shines out like this, which is pretty useful. So we're going to buy her. And then if I hover over this icon, the gold icon, we have 24 right now. You'll notice that we get bonus income every single round. So every fight that happens, every like neutral round that happens, we get bonus gold. So 5 passive income, and we also get interest up to a max of 5. And then based on our win streak or loss streak, we get bonus gold. And then if you win the round, you also get another bonus gold there. I'm going to move around again, but we could see in the loss streak here, if you go from like a 2 to 4 win or lose streak, you get 1 bonus gold, 5, 2 bonus gold, and then 6 or more, 3 bonus gold. It's really, really nice. But let's talk more about interest. So interest means that every 10 gold you save up in the bank, you get 1 bonus gold per round, which is very, very useful because you essentially just get more than everyone else, right? And it kind of banks up like any other bank account, but interest is like 10% here after every 10 gold. So it's actually a pretty good return, right? And it happens every single round. So always try to make as much interest as possible. So ideally that's going to be 50 gold, and that way you can have more gold to spend to upgrade your team. So we already talked about buying units in the shop down here. You essentially just click them and then they get added to your bench. We don't need Graves, so I'll sell him. But another way to spend gold is with XP and rerolls. So you might see here we're level 4 right now. If we press the buy XP, which costs 4 gold, we buy 4 experience. So we'll go from 6 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, which brings us to the next level, level 5. I'm also going to buy the Rengar here because he's another street demon, and then we'll move everyone around and eventually fill out all these hexes. So this is really useful because, again, we want to get stronger. So when you level up, you increase the number of units you could play on your board. So we could play 5 now. Before we had 4, and you also get better unit odds in the shop over here. So we have 45% to find common units, 33% to find uncommon, 20% rare, 2% epic, and 0% legendary. However, once we level up, this gets higher and higher. Oh, nice, we got more upgrades, Zyra and Dr. Mundo, as we talked about before. But as you level up, you get better chances of getting everyone, and then you can eventually get a bunch of legendary units and upgrade them pretty easily. So we're gonna get these little orbs here. Every neutral round, you get a bunch of like item drops, gold drops, things like that. Just little things to help your team a little bit more. And from here, we're gonna build a few more items. So again, items are something that we can pay attention to a little bit later. I'm just gonna build Jeweled Gauntlet right now. It's good ability power items because we wanna play around Brand. Brand is typically decent with ability power items. And then we're gonna build a let's go for a Sunfire Cape. I want to build a tank item. So I have a bunch of like damage items. I want to balance it out with some tank items. And then again, that'll be synergistic for our team. But going into this next round, we're going into stage 3-2, which is the augment round. You could always tell that it's the augment round by the icons at the top here. So the swords mean you fight something, and this little card thing means you get an augment selection. And then this little gear icon is a carousel, and the wolf thing is a neutral round. So let's get an augment. These are prismatic augments, so they're a little more powerful than other things. And again, You can read more about augments on my guides and things like that, but right now I'm just going to take the Street Demon circlet. I'm going Street Demon, so I want more Street Demons anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and buy that. And then eventually we could fill out all the squares here, which is really, really nice. We got another Jinx, which is cool, so we could actually level up here and then maybe look at our traits on the side and try to play something that kind of fits that. So we have a Bruiser out right now. I'll buy another Bruiser, put it in. And then here we could actually use this emblem, which we got from the augment, to make another unit that is not a Street Demon into a Street Demon. So traits are pretty cool because most units have 2 traits, some have 3, and essentially they have like an origin and a class. So if we look at most units like Jinx, for example, Street Demon, that's her origin, kind of like their race or whatever. And then we have their class, which is Marksman. So Marksman gives a bunch of attack damage, which is pretty cool stuff. So you always want to try to get ones that work together, if that makes sense, and also play stuff that you have to add in for all your extra units. Because right now we have 6 Street Demon. We want to be 3, 5, or 7. And we also want to have like some of these other grayed out traits over here. Here's an interesting thing that they added. Sometimes in the game, you get to either gain 10 gold or split 30 with other splitters. So this is kind of like a game theory or mechanic that they added. Normally I just take the 10 gold. I think it's pretty safe to do because just a solid 10 gold is a solid 10 gold, right? But if you want to chance it, you could go ahead and buy the other stuff over there. But I'm going to put my tank items on my tank unit. We have our damage items on our damage unit. And eventually we want to fill the rest of our team out. And how should we do that? We could build another item because we have 3 item components over here. This little gear thing is a magnetic remover. It means we could remove items off one of our units to put it on someone else. We'll use that later. We also have a reforger, which is nice because if you get an item component you don't want, you could always use it to reforge something. But if we need to use it, we'll use it later on. What do I want to build right now? So Brand, he focuses on ability power, as we talked about before. Other units that are good in this comp are like tank units, which are pretty nice, and also like Samira. Samira likes attack damage items, so we could build like one attack damage item right now. We could build maybe a Giant Slayer. So yeah, we could build that. That works pretty well on her. Maybe I'll wait for the carousel because we could always pick up an item over here. So one thing you may have noticed already is that we have like 6 Street Demons, and essentially what that means is we don't really make use of that extra Street Demon that we got. So that little circlet thing, which gave us an extra trait for our Alistair, gives us 6, but we really need to get to 7. So in order to do that, we need to get Brand, Nico, or Samira. Those are quite expensive units because they're highlighted in purple and yellow. That means they are epic and legendary units, so we need to level up before we get that. And right now, I'd say we're in like the mid game. Oh, nice. We got like a little Jinx over there. I'll go ahead and buy her. And then here we want to just level up. So remember, we could only make a maximum of 50 gold or 5 interest, which is from 50 gold. We could just go ahead and spend all our gold that's underneath that, level up, maybe play Ziggs or something like that. He gives us strategist, pretty nice. And then with that, we can kind of play a bit more on our team. That way we make better use of our gold and so on and so forth. We are on a pretty big loss streak. Hopefully we could get some wins back. Obviously I am trying to explain stuff here, so I'm not like super trying or anything, but essentially you want to manage your economy, you want to level up appropriately, and you also want to make sure you get upgrades for your team so you don't just die out really, really quickly. We'll get more into that later because you may have noticed on the left-hand side here when we bought XP, we could also roll our shop. So we're gonna do that in stage 4. We're on stage 3-5 right now, as you can see up here. But I'll explain why in a little bit. Essentially, there are a lot of different team compositions that you can play, and each of them roll at different stages in the game. But right now we have 7 units in the game right now because we are level 7. The stuff we put in our team planner, we put 8 units there. But you may have noticed that in the team planner, I have 8 out of 7 Street Demons. So we could eventually remove some of these and play other stuff. A popular way to play Street Demons is to combine them with strategists. We already have Ziggs, we have Echo already, so we could add in 2 more, such as Yumi. We'll go ahead and put her in at 3 costs, and another one is Ziggs. So we could go ahead and drop in Ziggs and be good to go from there. That way we can drop 2 street demons because we have 8 out of 7 right now. We could drop down to 6 out of 7, but with the emblem we get back up to 7, and then we could fill out our team with like pretty much 8 units there, or 8 or 9 units. Okay, we got this little boot thing which gives us nothing. We get a bunch of units here. Oh, we got a Yumi. That's pretty nice. Always be careful from these unit drops because you could always use some of those. They're not always useful, but sometimes they are pretty nice. And then we could just go ahead and sell the rest that we don't need. And then we got a ton more items. So what do we want to change about our team here? We probably want to maybe drop the Alistair, put in another strategist in, sell this. We could play like even another strategist like that, and then eventually put the street demon emblem on our Ziggs. And then we probably need to build some items. So I want to build some items for my Samira. I'm going to build some attack damage items like Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, Giant Slayer. We actually got like pretty perfect items for that. We could just put the Negatron Cloak, which is a tank item, onto our Dr. Mundo. We do need a tank. I'm going to go ahead and level up this turn and go into the next round and roll pretty hard. You may have noticed I went to 46 out of 48 gold. The reason why I do that is because you gain 2 passive experience every single round, so it's kind of nice to do. And by the time we reach the next round, we'll be level 8, and then we could roll down after we pick our augment. So we need to think of something pretty good because we are pretty low life right now. If you look on the right-hand side, we're 50 health. We are in 7th place, or we just got to 6th place, but it's not really that important because our team is pretty good later on in the game. So we could get some different augments again. Like both of these are good with items. This is like a combat augment. It makes your team pretty strong. We could get a support item. What do I really want here? Maybe we go for a cybernetic bulk. It gives us a bunch of health. Like sure, why not? If we put items on our unit. But now I want to use this reroll button to refresh my shop every single turn. And I'm just going to buy the units that we highlighted in our team planner. It makes it really, really nice to do and really easy to do. And pretty much we want to roll until we get upgrades for our team. We got a Ziggs there. Okay, another Rengar. Echo's pretty good. We'll just drop an Echo right now. I know we have 6 street demons still, but we're not quite getting the 4 costs that we want. So that is actually pretty unlucky. You may have noticed that like there are some 2-star units when you upgrade with the 2 stars here, but you could also get a 3-star unit if you get 3 2-star units of a unit. So you need 9 total copies. We almost have that with the Rengar. We could go for that. It'll be fun to kind of see, so I'll just show you what that kind of looks like if we manage to hit it. So I'll collect the Rengars here, but for everything else like the Echo and the Mundo, we don't really need the extra copies beyond the 3rd copy that got them to our 2-star unit. So I'll go ahead and sell those. And oh, there we go. We got our brand finally. So we could find a way to fit in brand. I'll take out this LeBlanc. We don't really need the extra strategist. We'll sell her. And then I'm going to use the magnetic remover that we talked about before. I want to move my items from my Zyra over onto my brand. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now by hovering over her and then putting the units or putting the items on my brand. That way my brand becomes a little stronger because I care about him a lot more than I do the Zyra because, I mean, I pretty much built my whole team around this brand unit. So that's good. We got to 7 Street Demon. We are still missing Nico and Samira, which are 2 of the most important units, but I think right now we could chill a little bit. I think I do want to roll a little bit more to get upgrades because you may have noticed already, like getting the 1-cost upgrades such as Dr. Mundo and Zyra is really easy to do, but getting the more important upgrades such as Brand and Nico and Samira is much more difficult. Again, the reason why is because you need to get a higher level in order to reach that. So it costs a lot of gold. So in the early game, you have to play around your low cost units. In the mid game, you play around the middle cost units. For example, we played around Jinx 2-star, Rengar 2-star a little bit. And then in the late game, you want the 4 and 5 cost units. So we're actually in 3rd place right now, not bad. The carousel pick priority is essentially in reverse health order. So if you're lower life, you get an earlier pick. But right now, what do I even want? Maybe I'll go for a Negatron Cloak. We have a bunch of damage items already. I want to get some tank items for my Dr. Mundo. So this Negatron Cloak plus Negatron Cloak gives magic resistance. It's a pretty decent item on like most tanks as a generic item. And we could probably work around that to kind of round out our team. We are still missing some important like pieces to our team. And there are obviously like fancier things you can do. For example, like some of these legendary units we skipped, and a lot of these are really cool stuff. You can read more about them on my website, bunnymuffins.lol, but essentially, like, Garen, he has an ability called God of the Net, and he essentially, like, after a couple of turns, he, like, loads up a new trait modification. So you could just get a unit to be an extra trait, which is pretty nice because they get an extra bonus. It's actually really, really good. We could decide to play around it. Maybe I'll keep him for something like that. But it essentially just gives a non-trait unit the trait bonus, which is really, really strong because if you play around that trait, like, anything extra is going to be really, really good. So we could decide to do that. What else can we do? We could decide to find another strategist. So right now we could either, like, level up or roll down to make our team a little bit stronger. But it is, like, a weird thing to kind of play around, to be honest. Right now, again, we're pretty healthy. We're on, like, a 4-game win streak. And then we get this extra augment round because from the little map portal, we see, like, we have a hack for our 4th augment. So we get an extra augment this game. Again, this is going to change every single game based on, like, what you're doing. But I'm just going to choose probably, like, the middle one here. It's, like, a generic good one in the late game. And essentially, like, with augments, like, you'll learn more on what augments are good, what augments are bad. Every augment is playable, believe it or not, because there's always a use for something. If you think about, like, any game, anything in life, like, there's always a use for something, even though it might not be, like, super universal. But in general, like, as much as I hate to admit it, things in this game are, like, pretty balanced. Like, you just need to use things in the right situations, which obviously is tricky. It's not a walk in the park to do that. But a lot of people complain about most games, how it's, like, not balanced, it's not this, it's not that. But I'd say overall TFT generally has, like, okay balance because the game kind of balances itself. If you ever have something that's, like, really, really strong, everyone's going to go for it, right? But when everyone goes for something, it actually makes the comp a little bit worse because what you may not have noticed yet is that in this game, if you're going for a specific unit, like, it's kind of like a card game. There are only so many 3-cost units in the game. There are only so many 2-cost units in the game. Same with 1-cost, same with 4-cost, same with 5-cost. So the more people that are going for one unit or, like, a particular unit, let's say, like, Dr. Mundo's super, super strong or something like that. If everyone buys Dr. Mundo's, he's going to show up less in your shop and everyone else's shop. So again, the game kind of balances itself out on its own, so you don't really need to complain that much about, like, something being super OP because you could always just play whatever unit or composition that is. But right now we are getting into the late game. We pretty much have most of our team together. We just need to get the upgrades. I'm going to go ahead and try to level up to level 9. That way we can add in an extra unit and hopefully find some of the more expensive units on our team. And I think that once we get there, it'll be pretty straightforward. We'll get the extra Rengar. We almost have Rengar 3, which is pretty funny. But yeah, let's go ahead and level up right now. It costs quite a bit to get to level 9, and we could go ahead and roll here. Hopefully we find, okay, there we go. We really needed Nico. That's really nice. And then we're missing, what's her name? Samira still. So we can play around that. We'll get the extra Garen for now. Okay, these other things aren't really tickling my fancy quite yet. I do want to play this Garen because he does give us that extra trait thing, but I also want this Nico. We also have this little thing, which is a armory, or a component armory, so we could always just sell this to open an armory of items, and then we could get another tank item. I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's get a 3rd tank item. I'm going to grab this chain vest, and then we could build Negatron plus chain vest. It builds, like, a pretty good resistance item, so we're going to put that on our main tank, which is going to be Nico. We won the round, so we got the extra gold, so we could afford her, which is pretty nice. Oh, nice, we got Rengar 3. Look at this. Boom. Golden animation, pretty nice. We want to remove the items from our Mundo, put them onto our Nico, because Nico is a much stronger unit. And then after that, what else do we want to do? We have this extra rod. Unfortunately, we can't do anything with that, but we have 8 street demons right now, so we could take one of them out. Who do we want to take out? Maybe we take out Mundo for this Garen. That way we could get the God of the Net bonus and hopefully do something with that and get an extra street demon activated unit, which would be pretty nice. But right now, like, we're not in that great of a position because we only have Brand 1-star. And Brand is kind of our main unit, so that is not good. We also don't have Samira yet. Hopefully we can find her soon because she's going to be a really, really big help to our team. But as you can see, I talked about this before, this other person's going Street Demon also, so that's why we've been having a little trouble finding some of our units. So again, like, the game balances itself out, which is another pretty good bonus about TFT, and hopefully this video is kind of helping you get acclimated with that. And I know a lot of people watching this, they might be an old TFT player who's kind of rejoining the new set. They could be a completely new TFT player, but essentially, like, this game does seem complicated from the outside, but I promise you it is not. It's not because I do benefit from you playing because, like, I make TFT content, right? But I'm not just saying that. The more you learn about TFT, the easier it becomes, but it's also, like, not that difficult to learn about it, because you don't need to know everything there is to know unless you're trying to become like a professional player, which most people, when they play games, I don't know about you guys, but when I play video games, I like playing for fun. So you only need to know what you actually need to know, and you don't need to, like, super min-max everything. But if you want to, the option is out there, and hopefully, like, some of my videos may help out with that. But essentially what I'm trying to say is the game looks intimidating, but it's actually really, really simple, because essentially you just buy units, put them on your board, find some traits for them, and then just see how they do against everyone else. That's really all there is to it. Like, all these items, you eventually just, like, memorize them after, like, a couple of games, especially if you just focus on, like, 1 or 2 team compositions. So it, again, might seem intimidating, but it does ease up really, really quickly once you play, like, maybe 5 or 10 games, you know? And so if you play, like, 1 game a week or, like, 2 games a week, you eventually will kind of recognize everything. So here we have Street Demons. Okay, yeah, we got a Street Demon mod. We're obviously going to take that. Oh, nice, we got a Samira, so we could buy that. We don't really need Jinx anymore, so we could just sell her. When you sell a unit, the items do not disappear. They just go into your, like, item bank over there, so we could just drop the items onto Samira like that. We have this extra mod. We could put it on someone. I'll put it on... we can't put it on a Street Demon because they already have the trait, so I guess we put it on Yuumi. Maybe she could make use of it there. Okay. We put the Gnasher's Tooth onto our brand. It essentially helps him cast faster after casting an ability, gain 60% attack speed for 5 seconds. Pretty decent item on him, but like you may have noticed already, this Samira that we just got is going pretty crazy right now. She's one of our top damage dealers, is the top one, and also, like, went into the fray. She's a little bit risky like that, but it is what it is. Another cool thing about this comp is that we do have... Oh, nice, we got Nico too. That's probably one of the biggest upgrades we could have gotten because we don't have any tank units. But essentially, what's great about Samira is that she's a Street Demon and an AMP. AMP champions upgrade their abilities in unique ways with AMP, and they also gain health. And Yuumi is also an AMP and also a strategist. And strategists work really well with Street Demons because you have 2 built-in strategists in your team, which are Echo and Nico, which is pretty nice. So that's why adding in extra strategists is pretty straightforward in this comp. And because Yuumi's also AMP, Samira's AMP, like, it just makes a lot of sense. If you want to learn more about, like, team compositions, let's say you watch this video, played like 1 or 2 games on your own, trying to, like, figure out what all the buttons do, kind of get used to the interface. After that, I'd recommend, like, checking out some recommended team compositions on my website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. I essentially just update this tier list every single week, and I've been doing it for like 5 years now. So it's pretty good stuff, and most people seem to find it pretty helpful, and hopefully it can help you out as well. But right now, we are in 3rd place, which is pretty nice. I know I haven't been talking, like, too much about what's going on in, like, the inner workings of the board. I've been more focused on, like, trying to teach you, like, what all the units do, like, what a unit is, how to build a team composition, how economy works. And I will be coming out with much more in-depth guides in the next couple of days. So if you are interested in TFT or you're coming back from an old set, definitely check that out as well. Because I will be redoing the leveling guide. I will be coming out with, like, a fundamentals guide and some, like, tips guides in the future, and also be doing some, like, gameplay reviews, and hopefully that will help out a lot of people. Every neutral round, like stage 4 and before, you essentially get, like, a bunch of gold and item components, but afterwards in stage 5 and beyond, you face that, like, dragon looking dude, and they always drop, like, a full item, which is pretty nice. So we could just sell this in our shop similar to the other item armories and kind of just pick something out here. I'm gonna take Thieves Gloves. It's pretty nice because it gives You'll see here, it gives like one of your units 2 random items. So if you have someone that needs a lot of items, but you don't have time to like wait to get like a ton of items for them, like just get a Thieves Gloves. It's pretty cool stuff because they just get 2 random ones, right? And since we have an upgraded Rengar at 3-star with no items, this makes perfect sense to kind of pick up. Okay, what do we have next? This is like the God of the Net thing from Garen. It's a pretty cool feature in my opinion, but we could get like Strategist, Executioner, or Anima Squad. So obviously we're gonna go Strategist. That's our next biggest trait, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and click that. We could put it on either Brand or Samira. What does Strategist even do? Combat start, allies in the back 2 rows gain damage amp. Allies in the front 2 rows gain durability. Strategists gain triple. So either Brand or Samira. I think we could check the damage chart right now, and yeah, Samira's doing most of the carrying. I'm just gonna put it on her, and now she's gonna do even more carrying, which is gonna be absolutely wild because, I mean, she's already doing a lot of work here, but hopefully we could get Samira upgraded to 2-star. I forgot we could roll here. We probably should be rolling this round because the game's about to end. Later on in the game, you kind of lose a lot more life than you do in the beginning. So are we able to sneak this one out? Oh, wow, that was a really close round, but we should roll most of our gold. We have like 72 gold right now, 83. All right, let's go for that. Okay, Brand and Samira. There's Brand. We're going to go a little more. Just looking for Samira here. Hotkey is D, by the way, to refresh your shop, which is pretty useful. So you could either click here or press D. Both of them work, you know, it just depends on what you find more comfortable. But we're not able to actually find her. That's crazy. Oh, we got her now. Oh, I bought it too late. Hopefully we don't lose this round. Or, I mean, I guess if we win the game. But and if we lose, we could get a next turn. But you could always like press this little button here to lock your shop in case you don't have enough gold. That way it'll show up in the next shop. But hopefully we should still win this, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about TFT. Again, like TFT, it looks intimidating, but it's pretty easy to get into once you kind of play a few rounds here and there. But essentially just save up some gold, find a team composition, and then just buy those units and play them, get them upgraded, and roll your gold to find them. That's pretty much all there is to it if I had to condense this guide into like a 10-second guide. But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed this video. And if you have more questions, like let me know down in the comments below about anything TFT related. And I hope to see you all in a future video.